everybody, I just made some of the best bacon I've ever had. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And now I'm going to show you how to make your own. So let's get started. Here in the States, bacon is almost exclusively made with pork belly, and preferably it's a nice cut from the center like this one. And everybody knows this makes beautiful bacon. But for this recipe, I'm using pork shoulder or pork butt, depending on your local vernacular. And I'm specifically going to be using this fatty end of the pork butt. And I don't know if there's a name for this part of the butt, but I call it the tiger meat because of these tiger stripes right here. And this piece is heavily marbled with fat, so it renders down and it crisps up just like belly bacon, but overall it's going to yield a meatier, more satisfying cut of bacon. And it's considerably less expensive than the belly, especially when you factor in the shrinkage you get after that fat renders out of those bacon strips. So let's get started by removing this section of meat from the rest of the roast. If you've got a bone-in roast, you're going to see this bone on one side of it, and then there's a little cartilage right there. And so we're just going to go to the end of the bone, pressing my knife in right near the tip of the cartilage, and as soon as my knife can go through, I'll just follow the edge of this bone down and all the way through, just like so. And this is the piece that I'm going to use for making the bacon. The rest of this, I'm just going to toss out. Now, I'll find something good to make out of this for sure. Now we can take that little nubbin of cartilage out there. Just a very small piece. And now you should have one pretty evenly proportioned piece from one end to the other, about the same width all the way, and that's going to give you nice and even curing and smoking. Now for mixing up my curing solution, I'm going to need to get a weight on this. And we'll call that 1,270 grams. And I'm using grams because that's going to make it easier to do the math when I'm mixing up my solution. But in case you're curious, that's 2.8 pounds. And these usually come in between 3 and 4 pounds. I'm using a bit of a smaller roast today, but it's not going to matter the size of this when you use percentages to mix up your curing solution. To keep things simple today, I'm going to be using 1 liter of water in the solution, and if you've got a standard quart-sized mason jar and you fill that all the way up to the very top, that's going to be almost exactly a liter. To calculate the amount of salt and sugar I want in my solution, I'm going to be using the total weight of the meat and the water combined, so that's 1,270 grams of meat plus 1,000 grams of water for a total of 2,270 grams. And I'm going to go with 3% salt content today, so that's going to be our 2,270 grams multiplied by 3%, and that gives me 68 grams of plain non-iodized salt. Now the sugar is actually optional in this. You don't need to use any at all. But I like a little bit of sugar in there to kind of balance out that saltiness. So I'm going to go with 2% sugar content. So 2% of that 2,270 is 45 grams. Now if you want to push this up a little higher, you can go as high as about 4%, but it will stick to the pan a little when you fry it. But another option is to roast this whole thing like a ham, and in that case I would go 4% sugar, and it's really, really delicious. And to cure this, I'm going to need some curing salt, and this is pink curing salt number 1. and that's going to kill any bad bacteria in here as this thing soaks in the solution, and it's also going to work as a color preservative. And this you do want to measure out very carefully, and that measurement is going to be 0.25% of the total weight of the meat, the water, the salt, and the sugar. So I've got my 2,270 grams over here, and now I've added in 45 grams of sugar and 68 grams of salt, bringing the total to 2,383 grams. And if I multiply that by 0.25%, I get 6 grams of curing salt. And to add just a little bit of flavor to this, I'm going to throw in about a half a teaspoon of ground clove. And this one you don't need to be very precise with. In fact, you can put as much or as little in as you like. And that weighs just about 1 gram. And now I've just got to mix all of those ingredients together until all the salt and the sugar and cure are completely dissolved. And I'm gonna cure this in a bag, so a nice heavy bag. Pour all of that curing solution down in there. And work out as much air as you can. And now this is gonna go into the fridge to cure for a week. And I'll slosh it around every day and spin it and make sure everything is curing nice and evenly.
Much later.
Alright, so here we are on another beautiful sausage Sunday, bright and early. And now this has been soaking for a week. You're gonna feel it's nice and firm now. So now we want to get a lot of this outside moisture off. So pat it down really well with some paper towels or a kitchen towel. And if you want to coat this with some black pepper or some red pepper or whatever spices you like, now is the time to do it, because we're going to continue to air dry this. It's going to get real nice and sticky, and that way your toppings will set up on there really well. So now to continue air drying this, you can either put this on a rack in the refrigerator overnight, or you can put these under a fan at room temperature for an hour or two, or until they get nice and sticky. And I've got a couple of pork loins going back there too, and that's the exact same recipe, and that's going to make some of the best back bacon you've ever had. Alright, now we got these moved out into the smoker, and we're going to be running this nice and low to get some good smoke penetration. So I'm talking between 140 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to hit these with a lot of smoke. So we're going to keep them down there for 6 hours, and I am running apple smoke today.
Six hours later.
So we're done with our 6-hour smoke time, and these have taken on a real nice color. They got a lot of good amber color, a nice shellacking of smoke on them. So now to finish these butt pieces, I'm going to turn the smoker up to around 200, 225. I'll get my temperature probe down into the center of one of these. Now, I know I've said it before, but when you're doing one of these, put your probe in this way instead of lengthwise, or you're going to have a hole through every slice. We'll get that down into the center, and I'll raise the temperature up, and I'm going to leave those butt pieces in there, like I said, till the internal temperature hits 152 to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, that's it. Ooh. Now look at the color on those. Ooh, that's pretty. And now you want to get these cooled down fairly quickly, so if it's real cold outside, you could open your smoker, just leave them out here. You pop them right into the fridge. They probably don't need to be cooled down as quick as sausages, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bag these up and I'm going to drop them in a cold water bath. And I'll just leave them in there to cool off for 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to keep a little bit of cold water running so it doesn't warm up in there. And I'll pop them in the fridge to let them finish cooling down all the way. And we'll try these guys out tomorrow. Now let's get into here and see how we did. Oh yeah, that looks good. You can tell by the color that the cure has made it all the way through, and just look at that fat marbling. Smells really good. Of course, what really matters is the taste. Check out that bite. That has got a deep smokiness to it. Really good. And the salt and sugar balance is right where I wanted it. And since this is fully cured and cooked, you can eat it just like this. It's not too fatty, so it's going to make a great sandwich or addition to your charcuterie plate. You could also roast the whole thing like a ham or use it to flavor a big pot of beans or chowder. But when you fry this up,
pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes. Bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes. Bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes.
it's just amazing. Ooh, what a sandwich. A good BLT is a real top of the food chain sandwich. Definitely in my top 5. Let me know about your favorite sandwiches down in the comments. And if you're so inclined, give this one a try. And I know you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching.